Flames Nation, Noah, it's Printzy here, and we're back with another episode of Shot Down in Flames presented by Flames Nation. Noah, we got no hockey to watch, no Flames hockey to watch anyways, though. What have you been doing to occupy your time?
Well, I've just been watching the rest of the playoffs so far, and today I just went to see Top Gun 2, the Maverick film. It's unbelievable. I will not spoil it for anyone who has not seen it yet, but I can tell you, please go watch it. Please go see it. It's unbelievable, folks.
You're too young for you're too young for Top Gun 1.
I was like minus 13 years old
like,
when it came out in 86.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't even born.
Well, and and compared to to the original film, like Maverick absolutely tops like the original film for me, in my opinion. But again, I won't spoil it for anyone, but make sure you go see it if you can pretty soon. And I'll just say about the Yankees quickly in baseball, quickly before we jump, the Yankees are playing like it's 1998. Like, it's incredible, man. Like, they're just on a roll.
Yeah, I actually just because I just was out with the family on the weekend. They're Blue Jays fans, so I watched a bit of the Blue Jays too, and I mean they're looking pretty good too. But we're it's hard to
switch.
Back. Yeah, it's hard to it's hard to switch from hockey to baseball for me just like that because we're so driven by hockey. And even though we're Flames fans here, obviously big Flames fans and Flames Nation, it's hard not to avoid or pay attention to what's going on up north in Edmonton right now. And as much as I didn't want to pay attention to that series, trust me, I didn't want to. But we have a show through the Nation Network it was called BOA Banter. And if you listen to it, it's me and Cam Lewis and Wanye from Oilers Nation. And we broke down post Flames games, it was fun, but frustrating because we hardly got any wins. And as soon as the series ended between Calgary and Edmonton, I thought, oh, great, I don't have to do BOA banter anymore. Nope. They're like, no, Printzy, you got to do it. You got to stay on and do it with us. So I actually have to watch the Oilers games because I'm on a show the very next day breaking down the games because they want me to stay on there because they like my insights. I'm sure it's because the Oilers fans like to rip on me. So I have been paying attention to the games and what's going on. Obviously, we love to see it. We love to see what's happening up there right now. Down 3-0, heading into game 4 at home. They could get swept. They could go play the Western Conference Final and not even win a game. We could have as many wins as they do in the Western Conference Final. So have you been paying attention to this stuff, Noah? I'm sure you have been.
Oh yeah, I've been watching it. Because the thing is that I'm a Flames fan, one, and then I'm a hockey fan too, which means that I'll still watch hockey until the very final game and until the Stanley Cup is raised by whoever the heck ends up raising it. Could be the Avs, could be the Rangers, could be the Lightning, and definitely probably not going to be the Oilers at this point. Thank God.
Thank God. Yeah. I mean, anything can happen. But they got a tough road ahead of them to try to get 4 wins.
They've had zero answer for the Colorado Avalanche this series. Yeah. And the Avs, man, have just been absolutely toying with them. McDavid has had no answer. Draisaitl had no answer. The rest of the team has just had no answer for Colorado. They've just been completely dominating the Edmonton Oilers.
They don't look like the same team that we played against, in my opinion.
Not even a chance.
They look so much better against us, and if for whatever reason, and we know all about it, about having a team not show up, the team that you have on paper, the team that not in our case the series before, but the regular season before, just doesn't show up. We've seen that before in Calgary, so it's nothing new to us. It's just it's tough to watch too because they're just getting pummeled all over the place. They got classic Mike Smith doing his thing, letting in soft goals here and there. And the crappy thing about Smitty is he actually has like a really good save percentage. I think he's got 920 right now. But he's making so many saves, but then he just lets in that one squeaker at the end. That costs the Oilers the game. Obviously there was a little bit
not just that, but that famous flop he always does every time he tries to make a save.
Yeah, he does. I mean, the lot kind of, we don't want to spend too much time talking about the Oilers because at the end of the day, who gives a shit about the Oilers?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, it happened today. Evander Kane got suspended for
Mhm.
one game. He cross-checked Kadri from behind, and I think Kadri might have broke his thumb or something like that. You got Oilers fans crying on Twitter today because they wanted McKinnon suspended for slew footing, which
That was not a
uh,
slew foot. Like, come on.
I think it came out that way. It's just how the play happened, and it was fast. I think it's because McKinnon is a big guy. He's
Yeah.
a bigger,
Mm-hmm.
stronger guy than Draisaitl is. And that's just the way the play, and it looked like a slew foot. Like it to me, it looked like it was. I don't think it was probably intentional, but that's the way the game happens, right?
When Oiler fans are not going to talk about the fact that Dresso slew for the Kachuk
No,
at one point.
yeah, but that's just the way they are. That's
Yeah.
the way
Yeah,
that they're
exactly.
wired. Something
Mm-hmm.
happens to them and they can't own up to it. They can't take accountability for it. And
Yep.
they're calling for Landeskog to hit like the hit on Yamamoto, which maybe it was a blindside, but at the end of the day, I think I can't even remember if it was on BOA Banter, if it was on this show, or the many other ones that I'm on. I keep losing track right now, but Yamamoto is a kind of a player that runs around and finishes his checks, and he's a little rat. So what the Flames didn't do anything about it. They did nothing. They didn't finish checks, nothing. So what do you think Landeskog's going to do? Exactly what he did. He's going to put that little shit in his place, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
That's what the Flames didn't do. They did not do that. And in my opinion, they stopped hitting. Like I don't know why they stopped hitting, but they just did. And Colorado has not stopped hitting. And they've worn the Oilers down, and it's just I can't put I don't analyze the Oilers enough to put my finger on why they're playing such garbage right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't I don't have it in me to actually go and care too much about it. But if maybe they're relying on that one guy that's not doing anything for them. I don't know. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
we're just talking about the Oilers right now because we record this on Sundays. The odds of them being out by the time that we record next week is very, very high. They could very
Yeah.
well be out tomorrow when the podcast drops. And it would be really nice if that happened because we don't want to focus on the Oilers anymore. Like it has not been a fun time.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. We don't want to have any
Yeah,
part of you anymore.
it's not a fun time at FlamesNation, online at social media either, because Oiler fans, they're a different breed. We talked about this last podcast about how they don't know how to handle the success, and they only know how to act the way that they're acting right now. And for anybody that's a fan of FlamesNation and follows us on social media, we apologize that anytime we try to post something, it's just dogpiled by Oiler fans, and it's talking about, oh, you've been on the golf course and this and that, and we couldn't even get anything positive when Sutter won the Jack Adams because it's just flooded by Oiler fans that literally have nothing better to do.
Like, gee, at least come up with something new and exciting.
Yeah, the golf course stuff. And I think there was one stupid Oilers fan that was like, oh, Sutter probably accepted his award from the 16th tee. And even other Oiler fans are like, you dummy, you think he's on the golf course right now? Like, you think Daryl Sutter is on the golf course right now? No, he's on his farm
Probably
right
cutting
now.
hay.
Yeah, he's cutting hay right now. He's not on the golf course. So I'm looking forward to this being all over. But the only crappy thing about this Oilers being potentially swept or out in 5. You think they're going to get swept? I think that they're going to go out in 5. I think they're going to find a way to win Game 4, but I think they're going to go out in 5, which is going to suck because then they'll have one win in the West. And we can't say that we had the exact same amount of wins in the Western Conference Finals as they did. But what's going to end up happening is they're going to win, or so they're going to get knocked out. And then they're just going to revert back to, well, it doesn't even matter because we beat Calgary and that's our Stanley Cup. That's what we can live with. And we're going to have to live with that for the next 10 years.
Remember Canuck fans back in February when they had that victory? Like, they were celebrating like it was their Stanley Cup as well.
Yeah, but the Canucks have nothing to celebrate about. Like the Oilers,
they've had nothing to celebrate for like the last 50 years, except losing in the Stanley Cup final.
Oiler fans and Flames fans can agree on the Canucks literally have nothing to celebrate over. So, but it's just, we're going to have to deal with it, man. We're going to have to deal with Oiler fans coming at us and saying that they won, blah, 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 even though they potentially didn't even win a game in the next series. Like any other team would have put up a better fight than what the Oilers are doing right now. It's a little embarrassing. In fact, what they're doing right now, it kind of sucks that we didn't get a good quality Western Conference final to watch, and something that's going to go game 7. Like Colorado's going to wax them, and they're going to be sitting there waiting, because the Rangers and Lightning looks like it could potentially go 6 or 7 with how Tampa played today.
I'd probably say it goes 6 and 7 as well. Like,
yeah,
anywhere below 6, I'd be stunned.
Right.
Like, I think if Tampa lost today, like, I would have been stunned if the Lightning were heading into game 4 down 3 games to none.
Yeah. No, I know. And Tampa will find a way to win. They're a championship team for a reason. And the last thing I'll say about the Oilers fans is how they're a different breed too. Is in my other position at Missing Curfew, we had Matthew Tkachuk on. He came on the podcast, which is great. He's a big fan of the show. Him and his brother both love the show, so we had him on the podcast. Same sort of thing, though. Like that was the kind of the thing that I think fans can tell the frustration in my voice with dealing with Oiler fans is not only did I have to deal with it at Flames Nation, I now had to deal with it at my other job at Missing Curfew, because we posted, we had Matthew Tkachuk coming on the podcast, and it's all Oiler fans. Look at that fucking turtle, fuck that guy, and I hate him, and look at me, he's on the golf course, he's a pussy, and like, just give it a rest, you guys. Like, oh my God. But what he said on the podcast is he said that, he said both crowds are very comparable. Oilers obviously have a different atmosphere than us, that he didn't say the Dome crowd was any worse or anything like that. He sold some funny Brady Tkachuk stories. Talked about just wanting to get back in there, talked about how hard it was to play against McDavid. But the one thing that stood out to me is he said that Oilers fans are the most ruthless fans in the NHL. And it's not necessarily a badge of honor as being a ruthless fan. As he said, in the rinks, they're so bad. But he said that they also come up to you in the streets and say awful things to you and threaten you and stuff like that. Like, it's just like why do that? Like, why
waste your time doing that type of crap? Like
why do you got to be like that? And there's that video that surfaced of 2 Oiler fans harassing Backlund, and I don't know if you saw Mangiapane in an elevator at an Edmonton hotel, like harassing them. Like you guys, like, show some class.
I don't know who's worse, Oiler fans or Red Sox fans.
Oilers fans by a mile.
Yeah, clear,
by
close.
A mile, man. At least the Red Sox fans, man, they have no one has, you should never have a reason to be an asshole to anybody like Oilers fans are being right now. But at least the Red Sox have championships to back it up, right? Like, I had a guy tweet at me today.
Don't even get me started.
Well, I had a guy tweet at me today saying, well, the Flames are such a pathetic organization. They've won 2 rounds since 2004. An Oilers fan. So I'm thinking in my head, okay.
Yeah, like,
wait. So you dial it back. So 2006 is when they went on their run. They beat San Jose in 2017. 17. So that's 1.
17.
Lost to the Ducks. And then they beat us. So that's 2.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. What's your point?
Well,
man?
they beat the Kings, right? Oh, wait.
3. Yeah. They beat the Kings.
Yeah.
They beat the Kings. So they got 3. Like, oh, come on, man. Like,
yeah.
Like, it's just they're searching for anything. Hopefully they get swept. Then we only have to deal with them talking about us for the next 10 years, and then we can move on. A funny one, a shout out, and we'll probably clip this one too because it's funny. Nation Dan up at Oilers Nation. I've met him several times. Couldn't be more of a nicer guy. An incredibly hard worker, dedicated to his craft. He's a guy that you can talk to about anything in life, with hockey or anything. Great guy.
Yeah.
Dan, we want to share a little story with you that us at Flames Nation, we all agreed that every time that Nation Dan says the word Flames or tweets about the Flames, we were going to throw $10 into a pot and see how big it grew. Well, guess what, Dan? It's grown so big that I was actually able to give Murray Edwards a phone call and say, Murray, I've got your money for Johnny. I got it. We brought it up. We scrounged it up because Nation Dan tweeted about the Flames 1.8 million times. Like, we got it, man. We got the money. So thank you for that, Dan. Appreciate it. Keep tweeting about the Flames. Even when we get knocked out, we love it, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You're killing it. So, and that's it for the Oilers.
And hey, we might have enough money to the point where we might be able to afford a new arena in Calgary.
Yeah, that'll be if we do that for Zach Lang, but we'll move on to other things. Enough with the Oilers. Sick of their shit. Elias Lindholm didn't quite make the Selke today. He finished in second. We knew that he was a finalist for it. It was Bergeron, Lindholm and Barkov, but Bergeron obviously walks away with it. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I checked it before. It wasn't a landslide, but it wasn't close either.
Yeah.
But you kind of knew that going in, right?
Yeah.
You kind of knew that this is Bergeron's award. Like, it doesn't matter. Every single year he gets put up for it, he's gonna.
It should be renamed the Patrice Bergeron Award at this point.
Yeah, yeah, it should. So we give all the props in the world to Elias Lindholm for finishing in second to the Selke Award. There's actually 4 total Flames that received a votes for the Selke. So we had obviously Elias Lindholm, we had Michael Backlund, and then Johnny and Kachuk got some votes in there too.
Johnny and Chucky are the most interesting ones out of the 4. Like,
I should have had the list pulled up here, but I know there were some odd ones in there. Like Puljujärvi got voted for it. Like,
yeah,
what? The guy can barely skate. Like, what's going on there? So we're happy about that. But yeah, we're kind of in a tough spot right now as Flames fans, because this is what we call it's a wintertime thing, but it's called the dog days, where there's nothing going on. The only thing going on right now is getting chirped by the Oiler fans. As much as,
except we have a very notable but very tragic anniversary on this day in Flames history. And as everyone sees the shirt I'm wearing right now, today is the unfortunate 18-year anniversary of the goal that should have been counted in Game 6 against Tampa Bay in 2004. Now, I got to ask you, Printzy, because you were 13 or 14 at 13, that point?
Yeah, 13.
So where were you on that night for Game 6? Because the Flames were a win away from the Stanley Cup. It was in the Saddledome that night. So where were you on that night?
Just watching it at home. That's all I can remember. And the tough part about this is there was 04. There's no HD. There's no 19 different cameras in one zone of the arena.
You still had the flip phones back then.
Yeah, well, I didn't, I was 13. I didn't even have a phone, but I'm old enough to say I didn't even have a phone in high school. That's how old I am.
Wow.
But, yeah, being, from the 90s, but like I said, there's no HD cameras. There's no 9 cameras within the net or whatever it is right now. So it's such a tough play. And if you think of that play and what would have happened if that exact same thing happened in 2022, it would have went to review and it would have got called in, right? Like,
it would
I can't quite remember the play to the full extent, but what I do know is, and I actually probably even want to go back and find that, as much as it pains me to watch it, because I want to verify that this is correct. From what I recall, the play went on for a long time after that happened.
Yeah, it did. It went on. So I think from what I remember, it went on for, I want to say, at least another extra minute and a half after the play happened.
Very long time.
And I think if you remember too, I don't know, you can correct me on this, or somebody can correct me when this goes out, but I don't know if it's still a rule even now, but I think what happened was you can't go upstairs to review a play after the puck has dropped for the next shift.
I'm not sure about
it. That's because I remember, I think it's the ABC crew that mentioned that at one point during that game.
For whatever reason, it didn't get reviewed. And I think I heard, whether it was on a podcast or radio or something like that, Craig Conroy talking about it, and that was 04. So the rules hadn't changed yet. There was no penalty for shooting the puck over the glass.
This was pre-lockout.
Yeah. So Conroy said that somebody should have shot the puck over the glass and got a whistle, like, right away. Because you don't want to, it's still a game. You don't want to ice the puck, right? That would be.
But you don't want to risk a penalty either in that same sense.
I know, but you shoot the puck over the glass in 04, it just stops the play, right? There's a funny video that I'll throw up here and probably clip this. I think it's from 2002 of the Ducks and the Flames had a bit of a brawl.
Yes.
Craig Berube ran Giguère behind the net. Craig Berube on the Flames, he ran Giguère behind the net, and he got a penalty or something for it. And he wanted to get a piece of a guy that would go on to become a Flame, Jeff Friesen, for some reason.
Right.
And the play wouldn't stop. So Dave Lowry, who's on the Flames, he shoots the puck over the glass to get Berube out of the box. And as soon as that happens, he shoots the puck with glass. They let him out. The crowd just goes nuts, and he lines up right by Friesen. And like, I don't even think he waits for the puck to drop. He just sheds his gloves and just starts throwing them.
He's just like, it's go time.
Yeah, exactly, man.
That brawl was ridiculous. Like, that's one of
Yeah.
the more like brawls that I think in Flames history anyway, that it doesn't get talked about quite enough.
There's a lot. Yeah,
compared to,
I
like,
think
the Oilers brawl
the Nashville one overshadows it for sure. I mean, we can get it. We'll have to do that because we're, like I said,
that Iggy Vokoun rivalry was so legendary.
Yeah, we'll have to. We'll get into it and not get into it right now because, like I kind of pre-mentioned before that with the podcast, we're in the bit of a dog days right now where there's not really a whole lot to talk about, and as much as we want to sit here and discuss what Johnny Gaudreau's next contract is going to look like and what Matthew Tkachuk's next contract is going to look like, you can listen to the Fan 960 for that. You can listen to, every other sports station out there that's going to be talking to, like I said, you listen to Pat for that. Ryan Pikes, their show's not going to go as much because they're in the off season. So that's what we kind of want to do here is think of some different stuff to talk about. Like, let's look back on some of these brawls and let's look back on some of the fighters that the Flames had back in the day and, go do our Forever a Flame thing and stuff right now. I'm trying to sound excited here, but as you guys can probably understand, being the guy that runs the FlamesNation social media, it hasn't been a fun time this past week. Like I said, a lot of classless Oiler fans coming at us and, they come at you and then they try to find your personal accounts and go after that. It's just, and it's all guys that have, a picture of Kyler Yamamoto as their profile picture, and they joined Twitter in 2015 and they have 7 followers, right? Like, it's just
exactly
not even worth it, but it's still frustrating as, your Sunday is supposed to be a day off and enjoyable, but you're getting just attacked and, you throw it back at them and then they cry foul and say that you shouldn't be saying that stuff as a Flames. I'm like, well, don't fucking slash me in the back of the legs and not expect to get punched. That's
exactly.
So yeah, so we'll think of a bunch of different different things. I mean, it just happens to you, right? Like, you start talking about, the 04, no goal, and it ends up turning into the Craig Berube puck shot over the glass story and stuff like that. So we'll do a bit of brainstorming. We'll maybe do some listener questions. Like I actually said that we'll make sure we get that done because this podcast is not going to stop. Maybe there'll be one time because I do believe I'm going out to the cabin in late June. And that's, as a guy that runs social media for many, many different accounts, especially, you guys listen to the show right now. It's good to turn off your phone every now and then and not have to deal with this shit, especially what you're doing right now. So we'll keep rolling with the show. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, Noah.
Not really. I think to your point, we'll have to definitely find some things to talk about over the next couple months here because like as you mentioned, you can go to 960, listen about them talk about the Johnny stuff and the Chucky stuff all day. But I will say is that at some point here we will absolutely try to put out an episode where we're predicting what each team's reverse retros are going to be heading into next season.
Yeah, stuff like that, man. And obviously the stuff is going to heat up, right? Contract talks are going to heat up because with the Flames, it's just with the contract stuff, it's one domino has to fall, right? Like, you can't just be going out and signing this guy and that guy without the number one guy being signed because you don't know where that money's coming from.
Or we don't even know if he's going to sign either.
Exactly. But if you do get him signed, you'll know what that dollar amount is, and you'll know that, okay, well, unfortunately, we cannot afford to bring back Nikita Zadorov. Which shockingly, there was that photo that Dan Vladar put out. And sorry, I shouldn't say shocking.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because I actually didn't mind Zadorov at all. I thought he had a rough start to the year, but he finished out quite well. And I wouldn't mind having him back at all.
There were kind of a few things in the playoffs that I had an issue with, but
tough.
To your point, like, he was fine.
It's tough, man, because you got people ragging on him, but he was playing with broken ribs, man. Like,
oh God.
Yeah, and he's getting cross-checked rubbed all the time. But back to my point was that picture Dan Vladar put out a thing on his Instagram story saying, like, do you guys want Nikita Zadorov back? And I'm like, oh, this is good content. I'll take it and repost it and tag Dan in it and credit him. And everybody was like, yeah, bring him back. Like, we'd love to see him back. But the thing is, you don't love to see him back at that number, right? Like, I think
absolutely
a little
not.
high. But here's my thought is that number with the Flames is a little high, but he can probably get it somewhere else.
But which one are you willing to bring back though? But if you had to choose between the two, would you bring back Branson or Zadorov?
Branson in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
it's not even a question.
Easily.
There's
even
I would bring back. You can't, like I said, like I mentioned before, you can't do it right now because you have to let the dominoes fall, and the number one domino has to fall.
Obviously.
But I would do everything in my power, if you get your big dominoes signed and they fall, to sign Erica Branson within the restraints that you can sign him in. It's tough because the guy probably can demand, maybe the same money that he was making before, because of the performance that he had. He had a career year. He hardly missed any games, if any. I'm not the stats guy. I need Flash here for that. I'm not.
He was humble, and the thing was, he went from being like the worst analytical player in the history of the league to like maybe a candidate for bounce back player of the year.
Top end defender. Yeah, I've heard Elliot say that him and even Elliot said Lucha should be a bounce back player, but no, I don't know what tops of that.
I think he slowed down certainly near the end.
So here's my thought with that too, is so say that you can't bring back Zadorov because of the point that I made, because as much as you want to bring him back, you can't, just because he has every right to go out and get paid. Right. There will be a team out there that'll pay him $4 million and give him a 5-year deal. Like there will be a team that'll do it 4 or 5. There will. You watch, there will be. Yeah. And he's young enough, he can go get paid. So where Erica Branson has played in the league for 10 plus years, way more, maybe even more than that. And, he's made it money.
He was a top 5 draft pick at one point.
Top three.
Top three. Yeah, top 3. Exactly.
For Florida. And he can go out and command the money. However, what he has done here is very special, and he's a key component to that room. And I think he knows that as well too. So what do? Do you go out and demand that money, or do you take what's offered to you in Calgary to be a part of something special, to be a locker room leader? And what's going to happen, to my point of if they let Zadorov go, who's going to be your 6th defenseman then?
Just look at Gio, for example, with the Leafs. Like, he was offered $1 million, but then he took like $800,000 to say, hey, we need more money on the table to do some stuff here.
Yeah. So if you have him, he's, you've got Anderson and Hannafin, then you've got Tanev and probably Shillington still.
But I think Tanev's going to be missing.
He will be, but then that's what you got Stone for. If you bring him back, you got Stone to step in for that. Then you got Gabranson, and you're either going to replace that 6th spot with somebody in free agency, but they're going to be somebody cheap, or you don't.
I haven't even looked at who would be a good possibility for that spot.
It's Connor Mackey. It's Connor Mackey. And Connor Mackey has shot up the depth chart and way ahead of Juuso Välimäki. I think it's on Mike Gold tweeted. I don't think
I love Mackey, but it's such a shame when I hear that, right? That Mackey is shot up very far ahead of Välimäki. Now, I mean, defensemen usually start to peak at a later point compared to like age 23. Right. But at the same time, and that's my biggest question too. So what are you gonna do with Välimäki? Like, you got to figure out where you're gonna do with him.
Yeah, I don't know, because it's kind of the maybe the Sean Monahan thing of, if you haven't dealt him yet, his value just keeps going down and down and down and down, right? You heard back in the day that he was in trade rumors all the time.
Mark Stone.
Yeah, I was gonna say we finished in 2nd on Mark Stone, and they didn't want to give up Välimäki. But I also did hear that it was Rasmus Anderson that was wanted.
You understand though at the time, why they didn't give up Välimäki, but
at the time, but you look on it now, it sucks. So
awful.
Yeah. So back to my point is, who do you want Connor Mackey playing with in the lineup? You probably want him playing with Eric Gudbranson.
Gudbranson, yeah.
Exactly. You want him to play with somebody like that Gudbranson, that Tanev, that mentor style player that can do that kind of stuff for you. So that's my whole thought with Gudbranson is, if you have to let him go because he just wants the money and you have to give it to somebody else, you got to do it. You got to do it, man. Like, at the end of the year, at the end of the day, he's only played 1 year here. It's not like you're asking a 10-year defenseman to walk, but he's just such a key component to this team that if for whatever reason, I don't want to see this happen.
I got one question for you about the offseason in particular. Just before we just start to wrap up here.
Right.
But what do you do with Sean Monahan?
That's a tough one. and this kind of goes into the point that I actually was just going to talk about, and a reason about keeping Gabranson around is, in order to try to keep all of these free agents, restricted or unrestricted, whatever, Johnny, Kachuk, and Manji, you got to shed something because we're right at the cap, right? So you got to shed something. So your two options are Lucic and Monahan, right?
Mm-hmm.
You love Lucic as the player. You love him in the room. He's a great Calgary Flame. I know that he loves it here, but you don't love his cap hit. That's the problem, right? 5.2, as much as this stupid Oilers took.
The interesting thing that I'll mention about the both of them is that their contracts are up after this year.
Right, but
next season.
You need them gone now. That's the problem.
You do. Oh no, and
so
I agree with you.
Easier
You
to
do
trade,
need either one of them gone.
So the thing about Monahan too is you can't trade him until he's cleared. He's on long-term IR.
He's pretty much a buyout. He's a buyout at this point. Monahan.
Right, but the
in
thing
my
about,
estimations, like,
and we had mentioned this a while back. What does a healthy 30-goal scorer Sean Monahan look like in your lineup in the playoffs?
But when was the last time he was even fully healthy?
No, I know, and that's the problem. Is it's like you don't ever want to tell a player to not play or whatever, but I kind of thought
it's always been the frustrating thing with Monahan, when it comes to his injuries, is that he's played through injury after injury, and it's just like, what the hell is he convincing you to do?
Well, my whole point was that COVID half season, with no fans or whatever, and that's when he got, I don't know if he was coming off or he's got hurt, but like, could you not have shut him down for half that year? Like, could you not? And that, like, I don't know, man. That's not for me to call. And I highly doubt that Sean Monahan listens to Shot Down in Flames with Flames Nation. But if you are listening, I've been a fan of you since day one. Like, no one hates on Sean Monahan or whatever. I understand what he's going through, right? Like, he can't perform to the best of his abilities because he's injured. And fans were shitting on him because he can't score here and he looked terrible this year. Yeah, but he's just.
But if you can't shoot the puck with your stick because your wrist is basically completely shit, then it's like, why are you playing?
Yeah, but that's in the same sort of thing. Going back to those stupid Oilers, is they're all complaining about Darnell Nurse right now. Darnell Nurse has been out there for 11 of Colorado's.
Which, by the way, his cap hit also was pretty
laughable. I know. We're praying that Johnny doesn't have the same agent as him. But he is one that, he had seen a lot of stuff with the Oilers. Are like, a lot of guys are like shitting on him, or they're either like, don't pick on him. If he's causing that many goals, if he's -3 in a 3-0 game, or it was 4-0 with an empty net, or whatever it was, -3 in a 3-0 game. Why is he even on the ice?
Yeah, like, exactly.
Why are you playing him? Like,
Darnell Nurse is like a offensive team's dream, essentially, because of the amount of goals he ends up costing the Edmonton Oilers.
He's costing them right now because he's got a core muscle injury, which takes away 50% of your power. So he's essentially a pylon out there, but they're still playing him for some reason, right? Like, even if you do get by Colorado, do you not want him for the Stanley Cup final? Like, it doesn't make sense. But hey, we're not here to talk about the Oilers and their awesome, coaching strategies and moves. Who gives a shit? So we're back talking about Sean Monahan. It would be very sad to see him go, but in the reality is, how do you clear that cap? Like, how do you clear that cap space?
You gotta buy out. Like, that's the only.
Yeah, but you gotta buy one of them out and then move the other one. Like, and
the thing with Monahan that's the biggest problem is that, as much as, yes, we can say he's a 30-goal scorer and all that stuff, his value is at the absolute lowest that it's ever possibly been.
It is, man. That's
like, you
so
can't.
That's the thing, is like, do you find a way to? I hate saying this too, because he knows who I am too, and I highly doubt he listens to this. But Luch, if you got rid of him somehow, is there some way that you can find other ways to clear cap and keep Sean Monahan for the final year? So say you keep Sean Monahan, and for whatever reason you can keep him, and you sign everybody that we need to sign, you make these moves, whatever, how you do it, I don't know. We'll leave that to Flash. We'll have Flash come on and try to break this down with us. Say you have him and he returns back to form, and he gets you 20-25 goals and he looks good again, and he's
I think the one problem though is, where would he fit, especially with what if you brought back Trevor Lewis again for another year, right? Like, that's the one problem too, is that is that where does he fit down the lineup at this point when you have Lindholm, Backlund, maybe Ruzicka next year as a full-time
The thing is,
3
if
or
you
4
have
seat?
if you have Monahan, then you don't have Ruzicka, right? Then
You
he's
don't.
just
No, you don't.
that's the thing, right? And it's a certain thing about it's a tough business, but you also there's loyalty to your players and your homegrown players that have been here for a while, right?
Well, there is.
Yeah, so that's why it's not just like if they didn't like the player and they didn't show loyalty, he would have been gone already. And you don't think that they already tried to move him. I know that they tried to move him
Oh, yeah.
at the deadline. Of course they tried to move him at the deadline. That's just how it goes. But my whole thing is if he comes back, he performs well, they find a spot from the lineup. Like, I'm sorry. Like we put out, I'm just trying to promote some of Pike's articles. And Pike put out that Calle Yarncroke had a kind of a disappointing year with the Calgary Flames. And because he didn't score, and then in the comment section, it was just like, you guys are idiots. He played great. Like he did his role and this and that, blah, blah,
He
blah.
was fine
He didn't play
defensively.
great. He was fine. He didn't play great. Like
Yeah.
you would have like, yeah, he got a goal in game 5 or whatever, but it would have been nice to have 3 of those.
He was good defensively, right? But just you're right. Like the only issue with him was he couldn't score.
No, I know. We paid a steep price to get him too. So yeah. So we'll
I'll put this out there too. If we're talking like deadline acquisitions from February, But Tyler Toffoli, I think Toffoli in a full year with this team, I think it will pay huge dividends for him.
He's got to adjust back to playing Sutter hockey. It's something that he's used to, but it's been a while since he's done it. And yeah, these guys, they need a full season and they need a training camp and they need the summer to, it's tough. It's the business of hockey that people forget is you uproot your life and just move to a different city and you got to do this, you got to do that. It's the NHL. It's different. These guys are making millions of dollars. They're not us. But imagine if you were working your job or whatever, and then you just got transferred the next day. Go gel with another team.
Got to find a way to adjust quickly.
Yeah, adjust quickly. And then you know what? Things might not work out because you're used to the way things were in the past. So yeah, any of these new acquisitions, I mean, we keep, harping on it. At the end of the day, like, they just had a bad series against the Oilers. Like Frank Saravelli said this, if you play back the series 10 times, the Flames might win 6 or 7 of those. If you play it back 10 times, like they just had a bad series and the Oilers played really well. We're seeing the true colors of the Oilers right now. We're seeing the team that got swept by Winnipeg that couldn't beat Chicago in the bubble. That kind of stuff. We're seeing that exact same team. But the problem is we're also seeing the same team in Calgary that couldn't get through Dallas and, couldn't get through the Colorado Avalanche before. So
and couldn't get past Anaheim.
Exactly. Like, no, at the end of the day, no, this team has not had success. But this is something that we mentioned on BOA Banter, and it's something that Brad Tree Living had mentioned was the Washington Capitals. They constantly made the playoffs. Constantly. They got knocked out in the round 1. They got knocked out in round 2. They got knocked out in round 3. And then guess what?
Was it even something Daryl had mentioned too? Like the fact
Brad Tree Living. Yeah, I think Daryl did too, but it's Washington. It's Tampa Bay. It's Colorado who's doing it right now. These guys consistently made the playoffs. They made it year after year after year. And guess what? Colorado lost to Nashville when they shouldn't have lost to Nashville. Colorado lost to Dallas in the bubble when they shouldn't have lost to Dallas. Tampa Bay got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Swept the year before they won the cup. They got swept.
And that was the last time they lost back-to-back games in the playoffs.
This shit happens. It happens. But what you have to do is you can't do what the Oilers are doing and miss the playoffs for 15 straight fucking years. And Calgary, make it, miss it, make it, miss it, make it, miss it.
That's always been the thing, right?
You have to string together years of making the playoffs. Okay, we got to the second round. We got bounced by the Oilers. Okay, next year we got to the third round. We got bounced by Colorado. Crap, that sucks, but we made it that far. The next year, we made it again. You just got to keep going and going and going. But making it and not making it and then making it and not making it, that's no good.
Well, and it's been the franchise and it's been an organizational issue since at least the late 90s, right? Is like, because you make the playoffs in your first 15 seasons in Calgary. You only missed the playoffs in 1 year. Yeah. And then you missed the playoffs for 7 years in a row. And then you're in the Stanley Cup final 8 years after you last made the playoffs.
Right.
And then you're making the playoffs in 06, 07 you're in, 08 you're in, 09 you're in. And then you miss for 6 years, 15 you're in. And then it's make it miss, make it miss, make it miss, make it miss. Like you have to have a make it.
Yeah. Whether you get beat by the Oilers, you get beat by Colorado, or if you go to game 7 overtime, the 3rd round against the Vegas Golden Knights, like, it just, you have to do it, man. And like, people here sitting there crying and complaining that, oh, this team didn't make it. It sucks, but it was a step in the right direction. There's a lot this team can learn from. It was a step. It wasn't a jump. It was a step. This is a process. This is why this team, it takes a long time to do this stuff. You can't be like Oiler fans and get mad that you didn't win the Stanley Cup in year 1 of your playoff run. Yep. You can't. You gotta have that right mentality. So a lot of good stuff though, man. We got talking about lots of good stuff. One thing I do want to mention though, and I got to mention this, Noah, shout out to some of the guys at the head office that got us hooked up with this. I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter and Instagram. We have a game day deal with some of our liquor sponsors. We've got Ace Liquor, Wine and Beyond, and we got Liquor Depot. Any of the game days left in the playoffs, you got Tampa, you got the Rangers, you got Oilers. So pretty much every day, because they're going to go until we get to the finals, they're going to go every single night. You can go to any of these stores, Ace Liquor, Wine and Beyond. You can go to Liquor Depot. It's $35.99 for a 24-pack of Bud Light, Budweiser, Coors Light, Molson Canadian. So that's a good deal. I mean, if you're a guy like me that can crush tons of those beers, I got my buddy up in Edmonton, Jared. Me and him were crushing beers. We can do this. So hit up any of those stores. You got a game day deal. And these guys are sponsoring Shot Down in Flames, and we love it. So hit up that game day deal. Noah will be back next week. We're going to do some different stuff. Maybe next week, maybe the week after that, we'd like to have somebody else Flash. Maybe he'll hop in. We'll do a 3-way with him. I know he's been kind of itching to do some stuff too. So maybe we'll, cause he's getting shut down for a little bit with Pike. So we'll do some fun stuff, man. Cause we'll talk about Flash and, big Flash showing up at the Red Law party there. He wanted to go, but I don't know if did we lose that game?
Yeah, that was game 2. We lost game 2.
We lost game 2 too. So we'll have big shit on. But anyways, Noah, it's a pleasure snapping it with you. And this was Shot Down in Flames, presented by Flames Nation.